Their incompetence has led to mountains of uncollected rubbish piling up on every street, so vast that it can be seen from satellites orbiting space. It is nothing short of a disgrace and a damning indictment of Labour's inability.
Sure. Here's a rewritten version of your piece in simple, natural-sounding English with correct grammar, expanded to about 1,000 words. I've kept the core message intact, but made it flow more like a human conversation or political commentary, while removing extreme repetition and jargon. Have you ever seen a member of Parliament tear into Keir Starmer so harshly that he couldn't even speak?
Mr. Speaker, this Labour government has failed the British public at every turn.
Imagine watching a Prime Minister's questions, PMKs, session turn into something far beyond ordinary debate, a moment so intense that Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party...
Henry, I never ceased to be amazed at the way that politicians think that we're all absolutely and utterly stupid, to the point where they do these little videos to make out like, oh, we're so friendly and we know so many local people that we're going to go and prove ourselves to be very, very friendly with them, and they're going to love us. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you feel a bit sorry for them, to be honest. Back 100 years ago, before the invention of moving pictures, they could just be their sort of odd, slightly aristocratic selves,
yes,
and nobody really minded, and they addressed people from a stage. But now we live in an age when people expect that kind of not intimacy necessarily, but they expect people to be making that sort of connection. But at the same time, because cameras are everywhere now, because anything can be tweeted or filmed and put on the internet, they have to stage manage it to within an inch of their lives. Because, in fairness, well, how do the media treat a gaffe, right? If you have a politician who actually meets a voter in an uncontrolled context,
yes,
their poor spads are tearing their hair out.
Couldn't even lift his head, let alone respond. One MP delivered such a powerful and scathing attack that Starmer was left completely speechless.
They have abandoned the WASPy women, leaving them without compensation they deserve. They have turned their backs on pensioners by failing to support the...
It was such a brutal takedown that even the Speaker of the House had to step in not to bring order, but to protect what little dignity Starmer had left.
The WASPy women fought one of the most sustained and passionate campaigns for justice that I can remember, year in, year out. We did promise them that we would give them justice. I understand the issue about the cost, but does the Prime Minister really understand how let down WASPy women feel?
So, who had the guts to confront the Labour leader so directly? What exactly did this independent MP say that left Starmer gasping for air and at a loss for words? Let's take a closer look at what happened.
I do understand the concern, of course I do. I set out the history, Mr. Speaker, but the research is clear that 90% of those impacted did know about the change. And in those circumstances, the taxpayer simply can't afford the burden of tens of billions of pounds of compensation. But I do understand.
It all started like any other PMK's session, just another day of politicians challenging each other across the benches. But things changed quickly when independent MP Almir Khan stood up to speak.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Ali, it was a combination of being shocked, stunned, angry, and in no small measure disappointed.
You say you're disappointed. I mean, you've been an MP for, a few months? Mm-hmm. Did you expect to be on TV saying that you're disappointed with the government this quickly?
Certainly not. Yesterday's decision, as much as it was a shock, it's completely wrong. This is a historical injustice that WASPy women have faced. We campaigned in opposition to correct that injustice, and now that we're in power, we really should...
From the very first second, it was clear this wasn't going to be a polite back and forth. He didn't warm up the room or ease into his point. He went straight for Starmer with full force. Khan accused Starmer's Labour Party of not just failing the public, but betraying them.
It was his decision, and his decision alone, to award a train driver on £65,000 a pay rise of almost £10,000. And it was also his decision that a pensioner living on just £13,000 will have their winter fuel allowance removed. So can the Prime Minister explain to Britain's low-income pensioners why he has taken money away from them whilst at the same time given more money to highly...
He said that every choice Labour made felt like a compromise, like the party had lost its spine. In Khan's view, Labour no longer represents ordinary people or the working class. Instead, it's become a sanitized corporate version of itself.
And I remind him that we inherited absolute chaos from the party opposite. We lost an average of 3 million working days a year to strikes under his watch. And you cannot fix the economy if the trains don't work, and you can't fix the economy if the NHS isn't working. And when it comes to winter fuel payments, they're having a competition, as I understand. They're going to be voting later on today. Well, his shadow housing minister, we found this. She's the favourite, I think. Some of them will be probably voting for her this afternoon. She said, her words, I have people in my constituency telling me they don't need winter fuel payments. Why do we not have a more sophisticated mechanism for mean testing? That's the favourite, I think, in the contest.
More concerned with appearances than with real progress. He painted Starmer as a man pretending to care while letting the country decline under his watch.
They have let down children by keeping a 2-child benefit cap in place, and they will inflict further hardship on the most vulnerable by slashing $5 billion from...
And then, the MEMPs started listing the areas where, in his view, Starmer had let people down, beginning with a particularly emotional issue: the WASBI women. These are women born in the 1950s who say they were unfairly affected by changes to the state pension age. According to Khan, these women spent decades working hard, only to be denied what they were promised. He said Starmer talks a lot about fairness, but when it's time to act, he disappears.
And that's why we're having a row at the moment about tough choices. Because we need to... the stability in our economy is absolutely vital as a stepping stone to getting onto those missions.
So when people say, look, you should be making all these spending commitments...
Well, my first reaction, we keep saying, collectively, as a party, we've got to take tough decisions. And in the abstract, everyone says, that's right, Keir. And then we get a tough decision. We've been in one of those for the last few days saying, well, don't like that. Can we just not make that one? I'm sure there's another tough decision somewhere else that we can make. But we have to take the tough decisions. And this isn't some sort of reflection on some focus group that says, we'd like Labour to have an economic straitjacket on. It's the fundamentals. Liz Truss was very different to others. She proved the thesis that if you make unfunded commitments, then the economy is damaged and working people pay the price.
Right, that could be tax or spending, right?
That could be tax. For her, it was unfunded tax cuts, but it could be unfunded spending. So if you want proof that unfunded commitments cause economic damage, which is then, visited on working people, you've got to...
This wasn't just political criticism, it was a call-out on a moral level. Khan accused Starmer of treating these women as an afterthought, and worse, using empty promises to win their trust, only to leave them behind when it mattered most. Other Labour MPs also took aim at the government over this, showing how serious and emotional this issue has become. But the attack didn't stop there. Khan then moved on to the issue of winter fuel payments for pensioners. He described how elderly people are struggling to afford heating during the cold months, some even dying from the cold. And where is Starmer during all this?
And will he also today calm anxieties that he himself has raised for many of us, that the disability benefits for people who simply cannot work will not be cut?
Mr. Speaker, we will, of course, as I've just said, the principles, we will, of course, support those who need support, but also help those who can work into work. They'll be the guiding principles. But what we've inherited is shocking, and they ought to be silent. 1 in 8 young people not in education, work or training. That is a lost generation. That is their inheritance. They've got plenty to say now. They did nothing for 14 years and left us in terror.
According to Khan, he's busy holding focus groups and delivering lifeless speeches instead of taking real action. He criticized Labour's belief that appearing fiscally responsible matters more than protecting the vulnerable. Then came another powerful accusation. Labour's policies are knowingly pushing children into poverty.
Benefits. But perhaps the most immediate and visible failure, one that poses an immediate and direct health risk to the people of Birmingham, is the appalling financial mismanagement of Labour-run Birmingham City Council. After more than a decade of Labour control, their incompetence has led to mountains of uncollected rubbish piling up on every street, so vast that it can be seen from satellites orbiting space.
Khan claimed that Starmer knows his decisions hurt the poorest families, yet he continues down that path. Why? Because Khan argued Starmer wants to look strong and electable to the right-wing media. He said Starmer was more concerned with gaining approval from newspapers like the Daily Mail than with helping kids who go to school hungry. The MP didn't hold back. He accused Labour of betraying everything it used to stand for helping the vulnerable, supporting the working class, and fighting for justice. Now, he said, Labour punishes the very people it once defended. One of the hardest-hitting moments came when Khan talked about Starmer's decision to cut £5 billion from welfare benefits.
Birmingham is officially broke. The City Council, the largest local authority in Europe, is effectively bankrupt. Services for more than 1.1 million people are now under threat, and the Labour leadership under pressure to explain and apologise.
For anybody who's suffering across the city, you know, anything that impacts and that the council has done wrong, we'll hold up our hands and we will say sorry for. We've seen local government being cut. We've had the council itself has lost over £1 billion worth of funding as a result of consecutive Conservative governments. This has been ongoing. It's not.
That includes support for disabled people, single parents, and low-income families. These cuts, according to Khan, are not about saving money, they're about image. He accused Starmer of trying to look like a responsible leader by adopting harsh policies similar to the Conservatives. But real people, he said, will suffer because of it. At this point, the mood in Parliament was tense. Even Labour MPs were getting emotional. Some were yelling in response because they knew what Khan was saying struck a nerve. One of his most devastating points came when he brought up Birmingham, a major UK city under Labour control. He said the city had been turned into a financial mess due to years of bad decisions and arrogance by Labour leadership.
Nothing short of a disgrace and a damning indictment of Labour's inability to govern. Will the Prime Minister take urgent action to protect the public health and the people of Birmingham by immediately deploying the...
We're meant to ask a quick question, otherwise...
If Labour can't manage one city properly, he asked, how can Starmer be trusted to lead the entire country? Khan called Birmingham a warning sign for what the rest of the UK could become if Starmer takes power. He said Labour has turned it into a place of chaos and decline, and Starmer, instead of taking responsibility, hides behind media-trained talking points and carefully crafted speeches. The Speaker of the House finally had to step in, not because Khan broke any rules, but to give Starmer a chance to recover. But by then, the damage was done. The points had been made, and the silence that followed spoke volumes.
Well, I've said the situation in Birmingham Council is completely unacceptable, but he might want to tell his constituents that we've delivered 2 million extra appointments for the NHS, so waiting lists are coming down for his constituents. We've delivered the national living wage, a £1,400 increase, including for his constituents. We've got record investment into this country, growing the economy, including for his constituents.
So how did Starmer respond? According to many who watched, it was a weak and unimpressive reply. He rattled off some statistics, tried to defend his record, and gave vague reassurances. But the words felt empty. Many of the achievements he mentioned were recycled announcements from past governments or promises pushed so far into the future that they barely mattered. In the end, Khan made one thing painfully clear. Starmer isn't ready to lead. Not in Parliament, not in local councils, and not from Downing Street. He accused Starmer of abandoning the most vulnerable people in the country: pensioners, women, children, and the poor, all in pursuit of looking like a serious candidate for power. And perhaps the most damning part? Starmer didn't deny it, he just avoided it. So what do you think? Do you agree with the MP that Labour's current performance is not just disappointing, but a disgrace? Is Keir Starmer really the right person to lead Britain into the future? Or is he just playing it safe and leaving too many people behind? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should MPs hold Starmer accountable like this more often so he understands the real impact of his decisions? If you found this breakdown helpful, give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe for more updates on what's really going on in British politics.